The Cape Summer of Champions season is now in full cry, and racing came to this weekend from Kenilworth, where we saw two absolutely spectacular performances. One by a daughter of Water Winter in Gaynor Rupert's colours, trained by Candice Bass Robinson and really beautifully ridden by Aldo de Meyer. She's a daughter of Water Winter out of a manager mare. She's won 4 out of her 5 starts to date, and the first time round the bend was truly spectacular. Then, of course, there's a son of Master of My Fate. He's trained by Joey Ramsden. He was fantastically ridden by Bernard Faydurb, and he was victorious in the Cap Classique. He's going to be a serious force to be reckoned with come the Guineas, which is obviously in the middle of December, run on the same day as the Fillies Guineas. The Colts and the Fillies Guineas on the same day. Now take note for those of you who've been on the moon. But before we go any further, I think it's important to speak to one of the most respected and accurate form studiers in the Western Cape. His name is Mark van Deventer, and he talks to us about the prevailing conditions at Durbanville on Matcham Stakes Day, which of course saw the running of the Diana Stakes and a really scintillating performance by a horse called One World, who was victorious over Casimir. So let's go and join Mark van Deventer on the last day of racing at Durbanville before they moved to Kenilworth.
Usually at Durbanville, racing handy is a big advantage, but we saw horses come from off the pace. The ability to quicken is vital in turf racing, and also showing a gameness and heart, another important attribute. One World, Andrew, embodies all of those characteristics. That was a sensational performance. The way in which he tracked Casimir, who I think is a potential Grade 1 winning sprinter, and then when passed by that one, was able to fight back.
Casimir comes at One World as they come inside the final 300. Casimir, One World up down towards the inside. Casimir puts his head in front from One World over the last 100. Casimir's in front from One World trying to fight back. One World's fighting back at Casimir down towards the inside, and One World, game as they come, goes on to win from Casimir.
The speed figure that he earned is right up there with what it takes to win the classics. It really was a supremely impressive performance by One World, who's a very imposing physical specimen as well.
Well, you know, the funny thing is that when you speak to Vaughan Marshall, he says quite casually, let's not get ahead of ourselves, but here's a man that's trained 4 Guineas winners in 4 different decades. Sea Warrior, facing north, obviously Captain Al himself, and William Longsword. Yes. And this horse really fits the mould well.
I think so. Understandably, trainers will rate horses conservatively. They don't want to get ahead of themselves. It's a very tough game, prepping horses precisely for the classics. So we understand if they're somewhat low key. But One World's racetrack performance today was really that of a potential Guineas winner. He has an exceedingly bright future.
The Diana Stakes also fiercely competitive, and you could throw a blanket over them.
Yeah, I think the reason for the clustered finish, Andrew, is that they perhaps didn't go quite as hard as in the other races. And it was a good win by Love to Boogie, who's a game mare. She's done well over a variety of distances. And credit to Andre Nel and his team for trucking her back from KZN and winning first up here. An inspired ride by Bernard Faydurb. He went wide, he made an early move, and he was just able to stave off the cavalry, with Miss Caitlin finishing very strongly. Angel's Trumpet was given every chance. It was a tight one. The speed figure significantly lower than what One World and Casimir earned, but still a genuine performance by those fillies. And then for me, and I was absolutely impressed by Rainbow Bridge. That effort in the Matcham was outstanding.
Rainbow Bridge has also got running in up the outside. It's Al Maydart down towards the inside from New Caledonian. These two have come clear. Bernie's running home strongly down towards the inside, and Rainbow Bridge up the outside is also starting to run home strongly. Rainbow Bridge is coming home strongly at New Caledonia over the last 100. New Caledonia, Rainbow Bridge is coming clear, and Rainbow Bridge goes on to win from New Caledonia.
Unbeaten, and he stepped out. He won his maiden comfortably enough. Showed a good turn of foot there, and then his performance during the winter series was really very, very good, and I think what marks him as a top horse is that power of acceleration. And he showed it here as well. You know, it's not often that horses can make up a lot of ground here at Durbanville. There was no real headwind to speak of. The track variant was pretty quick. You know, the front runners weren't stopping. And our mate Art, last year's winner, was challenging New Caledonia. They looked to be fighting it out. And it seemed impossible that Rainbow Bridge could menace them, and yet he effectively won easing up. So he must have turned on the afterburners in that final furlong. It was an outstanding effort.
So in a way, I feel very seriously vindicated for being down here, not only for the quality of the racing, but also for the fare that was on offer today with the Potjie course competition, the Jockeys Challenge, and just the activity and the vibe on the course was spectacular.
Yeah, a lot of fun out here at Durbanville. A clubhouse atmosphere, and then all the other activities with the Potjie course, and you can hear the guys cheering in the background, the Bokke against the Kiwis. So there's a good vibe. And it's a compact facility, and also I think the racing has become fairer. In the past, Durbanville would often be slated as a very biased track.
Roller coasters.
Yeah, the speed bumps in the straight. I think that first turn can be tricky. You know, the feedback from the jockeys. It can be awkward to get the horses on the right leg, settled and properly balanced. But overall, it's a fair racetrack, and yeah, it's great to have a vibe on course. Yeah, it's a wonderful game, and a big part of it is the spectacle and the social aspect. So it's fun when that kicks in.